Welcome to our channel, where we explore the profound wisdom of Vedic traditions. Today, we address one of the most troubling questions faced by spiritual seekers throughout history. Why do those who follow Dharma, living ethically, honestly, and righteously, often seem to struggle, while those who cheat, exploit, and manipulate appear to enjoy wealth, power, and prosperity? This question isn't new. In the Mahabharata, even the virtuous Yudhishthira asked, "When righteousness suffers and unrighteousness flourishes, what should the righteous do?" Today, we might phrase it differently. Why does the corrupt CEO earn millions while ethical employees struggle to pay rent? Why do shameless politicians gain power while honest citizens face hardship? For the sincere Dharma practitioner forced to work in exploitative systems or asked to compromise values, perhaps even being instructed to handle beef products against Hindu principles, this question isn't merely philosophical, it's deeply personal and urgent. Yet the Vedic traditions offer profound wisdom on this apparent contradiction, wisdom that doesn't merely counsel blind acceptance, but provides a deeper understanding of cosmic justice and practical guidance for navigating an often adharmic world. Today, we'll explore what the Shastras truly teach about this paradox, and discover how to maintain dharmic living even when the material world seems structured to reward its opposite. The apparent prosperity of the unrighteous is directly addressed in numerous Vedic texts, suggesting this paradox has troubled seekers for thousands of years. The Manusmriti offers perhaps the most direct explanation in verse 4.174, adharmenandhate tavat tato padrani pashyati, tata sapatnan jayati samulastu vinashyati. For a time one prospers through unrighteousness, for a while he experiences good things, and for a time he conquers his enemies, but, after all, he perishes root and branch. The Bhagavad Gita approaches this question from another angle. In chapter 4, verse 7, Krishna explains, Yadadahi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharat, abhyutan madharmasya tadatmanan srijamyaham. Whenever there is a decline in righteousness and an increase in unrighteousness, O Arjuna, at that time I manifest myself on earth. This verse promises divine intervention when adharma becomes too prevalent, suggesting a cosmic rebalancing that may not be immediately apparent, but is nevertheless certain. The Mahabharata, particularly in Yudhishthira's conversations with various sages, repeatedly grapples with this question. When facing the prosperity of the evil Kauravas, despite their adharmic actions, Yudhishthira is counseled that Dharma's rewards operate on a different timeline than the immediate gratifications of adharma. Even in the Bhagavad Purana, we find numerous accounts of asuras, demons, gaining temporary power through unrighteous means, only to eventually face divine justice. These stories acknowledge the reality of adharmic success while affirming its impermanence. One of the key insights from Vedic wisdom is the distinction between different time frames of success and justice. Adharmic prosperity operates primarily in the short term, what Sanskrit texts call alpakalika or temporary gains. These might span years or even a lifetime, but from the cosmic perspective, this is merely a moment. We see the corrupt politicians' wealth today, but not their future suffering either later in this life or in future births. Manusmriti's verse states it clearly. Those who indulge in adharma attain immediate success and secure fulfillment of their desires. They overpower their opponents, but ultimately their ruin down to the roots is certain. This temporal perspective helps explain what appears to be an unjust world. Just as a farmer doesn't expect harvest the day after planting, the fruits of Dharma ripen according to their own timeline. First, some dharmic actions bring immediate positive results. The peace of mind that comes from ethical living, the trust of those around you, the self-respect of integrity. Second, some dharmic actions yield results later in this lifetime, the long-term benefits of patient, honest work, the network of genuine relationships, the knowledge that one's life has meaning beyond material acquisition. Third, and most importantly, dharmic living creates positive karma that follows the soul across lifetimes, what the texts call sansita karma, or accumulated merit. When we understand these different time frames, the success of the unrighteous no longer appears as an inconsistency in cosmic justice, but simply as different types of causes yielding their appropriate effects in their own time. The material prosperity of those following adharmic paths often masks significant hidden costs that aren't immediately visible to observers. First, inner turmoil and lack of peace. The Bhagavad Gita 16:10-16 describes those pursuing wealth and power through adharmic means as constantly anxious, suffering from insatiable desires, and bound by hundreds of anxieties. External wealth often coexists with internal poverty. Second, deterioration of character. The texts explain that adharmic living gradually erodes one's ability to discern right from wrong, creating a downward spiral where each unethical action makes the next one easier. Those who begin with small compromises eventually find themselves capable of actions they once would have found unthinkable. Third, damage to relationships. Authentic connection with others becomes impossible when one's life is based on deception and exploitation. The adharmic person may be surrounded by people seeking advantage but experiences profound loneliness. Fourth, spiritual degradation. Perhaps the most significant hidden cost is described in the Bhagavata Purana as the gradual darkening of consciousness that blocks one from experiencing higher spiritual realities. This spiritual blindness represents a form of suffering more profound than any material lack. Finally, the texts describe the accumulation of negative karma that will inevitably bear fruit in this life or future ones. As search result Nabatain explains, Adharmatma manushi धर्म की मर्यादा छोड़ प्रथम बढ़ता है, पश्चात अनादि ऐश्वर्य से खान, पान, वस्त्र, आभूषण, यान, स्थान, मान, प्रतिष्ठा को प्राप्त होता है, अन्याय से शत्रुओं को भी जीतता है, पश्चात शीघ्र नष्ट हो जाता है, जैसे जड़ काटा हुआ वृक्ष नष्ट हो जाता है. Initially, the adharmic person flourishes, then obtains wealth, luxuries, honor, and prestige, then even conquers enemies through injustice, but is finally quickly destroyed, like a tree cut at the roots. The Vedic traditions do not leave cosmic justice merely to impersonal karmic laws. They also describe direct divine intervention when adharma becomes too prevalent. As we've already seen, the Bhagavad Gita promises that when dharma declines and adharma flourishes, the divine manifests to restore balance. This intervention happens at multiple levels. First, at the cosmic level, through avatars or divine incarnations. The Dasavatar concept describes how the divine descends in various forms throughout cosmic cycles to re-establish Dharma when adharma has become too dominant. Second, through the inspiration of great leaders and reformers who arise when needed to challenge corrupt systems. The Bhagavata Purana depicts numerous instances where righteous kings, sages, or even ordinary individuals become instruments of divine will to confront adharmic forces. Third, through the natural self-destructive tendencies of adharmic systems. While the demonic forces that aim to destroy Sanatana Dharma may ultimately self-destruct, the interim period is marked by widespread suffering. Adharma contains within itself the seeds of its own destruction. The Bhagavad Gita 4.8 further explains Krishna's words. To protect the righteous, to annihilate the wicked, and to re-establish the principles of Dharma, I appear millennium after millennium. This doesn't mean we should passively wait for divine intervention. Rather, it assures us that there are larger forces at work, beyond what we can perceive in our limited time frame, ensuring that Dharma ultimately prevails, even when current circumstances suggest otherwise. How, then, should the Dharmic person navigate a world that often seems to reward and empower those following adharmic paths? The Shastras offer practical guidance that remains relevant in today's complex environments. First, maintain internal clarity about dharmic principles, even when external circumstances make their application challenging. The principle from Manusmriti 8.15 of Dharma Rakshati Rakshita, Dharma protects those who protect it, suggests that steadfast adherence to righteous principles creates its own protection. Second, cultivate discrimination, viveka, to distinguish between situations that require flexibility and those that demand firm adherence to principles. Not all dharmic rules apply equally in all situations, and the texts acknowledge the concept of apad dharma, or emergency ethics for extreme circumstances. Third, seek community with like-minded dharmic individuals. The Mahabharata consistently emphasizes the importance of satsang, or good company, for maintaining dharmic resolve in challenging times. This might mean finding or creating workplace communities, online groups, or local organizations where dharmic values are shared and supported. Fourth, develop detachment from immediate outcomes. The Bhagavad Gita's central teaching of karma yoga, doing what is right without attachment to results, becomes especially important when righteous actions don't seem to yield immediate benefits. Fifth, remember that one person's dharmic living creates ripples beyond what is immediately visible. The texts describe how even a single person firmly established in Dharma elevates those around them and creates the conditions for more widespread return to righteousness. Sixth, understand that maintaining Dharma in difficult circumstances creates especially powerful spiritual merit. The text suggests that the spiritual benefits of standing firm in adharmic times are multiplied compared to doing so when such behavior is common and easy. Finally, recognize that despite appearances, we are not merely individuals struggling alone against corrupt systems. We are part of a cosmic process where Dharma and Adharma wax and wane in cycles, but where Dharma is the underlying reality that ultimately prevails. One of the most challenging aspects of dharmic living is knowing when and how to refuse participation in adharmic activities, especially when doing so might risk one's livelihood or safety. The specific example mentioned in our query, a Hindu being instructed to handle beef products against their religious principles, highlights this dilemma. The Vedic texts provide guidance on when firm refusal is necessary. First, activities that violate one's core religious obligations, nitya karma, generally require refusal regardless of consequences. The Manusmriti and other Dharma texts place special emphasis on maintaining one's svadharma or personal dharmic duty, which includes respecting religious prohibitions. For a Hindu instructed to handle beef, this would typically warrant refusal. Second, activities that directly harm others should be refused even when ordered by superiors. The Dharma texts consistently emphasize that commands which cause harm to innocent beings do not carry legitimate authority and should not be followed. Third, participation in systematic deception, such as fraudulent business practices or corruption, should be avoided even when common in a particular environment. The texts emphasize that truthfulness, satya, is a foundational pillar of Dharma that shouldn't be compromised. How should such refusal be expressed? The texts suggest, begin with respectful explanation rather than confrontational refusal. Express your dharmic principles clearly while acknowledging the other person's position. Where possible, offer alternatives that would allow you to fulfill the essential requirements of your role without compromising dharmic principles. If direct refusal would create serious harm, consider whether there are options to remove yourself from the situation entirely rather than comply with adharmic demands. Remember that the texts acknowledge that standing for Dharma may sometimes require accepting material loss. The story from the Mahabharata shows how Vishvamitra faced starvation rather than abandoning Dharma, though it also shows the complexities of ethical decisions in extreme circumstances. Finally, understand that saying no to adharma is itself a powerful spiritual practice that strengthens your character and spiritual progress, regardless of immediate outcomes. The paradox we began with, why the righteous often struggle while the wicked prosper, is answered not by denying the reality of this experience, but by expanding our perspective beyond immediate appearances. The Manusmriti's verse captures the essential wisdom. For a time one prospers through unrighteousness, for a while he experiences good things, and for a time he conquers his enemies, but after all he perishes root and branch. This understanding doesn't eliminate the challenges of dharmic living in an often adharmic world, but it provides the strength to face them with clarity and purpose. When we understand the temporary nature of adharmic success, the hidden costs it carries, and the certainty of eventual cosmic balance, we can maintain our commitment to righteous living even when it seems disadvantageous. The dharmic person struggling against corrupt systems is not a victim, but a warrior in the eternal battle between Dharma and Adharma. As the Bhagavad Gita 2:40 assures us, in this endeavor there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Every act of dharmic living, no matter how small it seems, contributes to the ultimate triumph of cosmic order over chaos, of light over darkness. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of one of life's most challenging paradoxes. May this understanding strengthen your own Dharmic resolve, and may you find the wisdom to navigate your unique challenges with both spiritual integrity and practical effectiveness. Visit austriaviennapuja.com for more insights on applying Vedic wisdom to contemporary challenges.